Hey everyone, my name is Mike Vaughn. Welcome to GVN Interviews. I am so excited because I am talking to Millie De Chirico, and we are talking about a whole range of things. Well, first of all, you have an amazing podcast that I am so excited to talk to you about, which is I Saw What You Did, which you co-host with Danielle Henderson. So that just actually celebrated 2 years. Is that right? Like a little
That's
over?
right. Yep.
Yeah, I love it. I really love that. With so many podcasts, you kind of need that hook, and I think that you all certainly have that with the way you're able to curate some really awesome movies, to put together in the podcast. And I guess I would say, being a curator yourself, that must be that just kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for saying that, by the way. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think I just have a programmer's brain for everything. And really it's just that I like putting things in categories, and I like lining things up thematically. So I don't know what that is. Maybe that's some kind of personality trait that I have or something. But when we were thinking about doing the podcast, and how to organize it, like you said, there's just so many different types of film podcasts. And I think that we leaned into the double feature thing because it just felt like a kind of even exchange of work or something, in a way. She could bring a movie to me and I could bring a movie to her. And double features are obviously a big tradition for film fans, film people. So they kind of understand the concept of a double feature. But then we leaned in on the themes idea because honestly it's me in the programming brain, where my day job at TCM is coming up with themes for the movies that we play on the network. And so I'm always just thinking about movies like that. I'm always thinking how does this movie relate to this movie? And then when we were thinking about how to do the double features for the podcast specifically, we just thought, well, what are things that are fun and make us laugh and are kind of these little inroads between films? Because I don't know, some people don't think about that. Some people they can watch several movies in a row and not see if there's a link between them. But yeah, so that's kind of the way we did it. So
yeah, and honestly, I think that there is such an art to curating, to programming. I know just for fun, when I would try to come up with movie night, double features, triple features, it is there, like I said, there is kind of an art to, as you say, putting something together, finding the threads that connect it. Also, love the book. I really do. It's I haven't been able to put it down. I love it. I feel like running press and TCM always just crushes it with the books.
Yeah.
And I have to say, not to be super shameless, I also wrote a film guide.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I know it is not hard. I mean, it's not hard. Yeah. Take two. It is hard.
Yeah. What can I ask you then? What is your when you came to writing a film guide? Did you just have a limitless amount of movies? Did you make a list for yourself? How did you narrow it down? Because that's kind of the challenge, right?
Yeah.
Is to try to find some kind of boundaries to where the book lives, in a way,
Yeah, no, that's an awesome question. I think that I initially just started with a big list of movies, and then I was trying to think about I wanted to do not just horror movies. I wanted to do something in different genres. So
yeah,
I first kind of started out with that idea and then just started grouping stuff up. And honestly, some of it was planned, some of it wasn't. Like when I was writing this, it was funny because there was so many movies that I had to work so hard to like get a, import copy, or like definitely not an illegal copy. But like now, these movies that I had such a hard time finding are in these beautiful 4K, Ultra HD, like
Yeah.
But
yeah, I totally understand that. I mean, that's why the book that Toya and I wrote is geared towards the franchise, the TCM Underground franchise on Turner Classic Movies, because we needed a way to, I don't think that she and I really wanted to do the whole like 50 greatest cult movies of all time thing. We just wanted to like be able to, go in on titles that we were really passionate about. And then we were thinking, well, then if that's the case, then how do we structure it? And so we just decided to only choose from the films that had ever played on TCM Underground. And fortunately, TCM Underground's been on since 2006. So there was over 400 titles for us to choose from. And I mean, it was all stuff that I programmed ultimately. So I guess I like them all in a certain way, but there was definitely like, a way to curate the list, even though we had kind of a large well to drink from. And you're right too about the whole idea of titles that were not accessible, maybe like in my youth being accessible now, because that's a huge thing for me. I was just at a university yesterday speaking to a lot of college kids, and they were like in their, late teens, early 20s. And I was up there like mother time being like, oh, I was alive before the internet, and I used to have to read film reference guides and then write it down on a piece of paper and then take it to a video store. And they were like, what are you talking about? I'm like, oh yeah, it was rough back in the day. So
yeah, I feel like that sometimes when I'm like explaining to like maybe younger film fans that like I was like blessed to have a mom and pop shop that like had the craziest stuff. I think like what I loved about mom and pop shops, and I promise I won't like go too rambly, but like you could have like something mainstream like Halloween next to Driller Killer. Like I love that.
Definitely.
But yeah, so I know the holidays are coming up, and that can be a horror show all by itself. But I was wondering like and I was like just so excited to like get your like what are your favorite like alternative holiday movies? Like what are your go-tos?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is such a big topic now. Don't you think? It's like there's so many people who are talking about like, I mean, quite honestly, in my view, being a programmer, I feel like if a movie has even just one Christmas tree in the background, it's a Christmas movie. I don't know, and maybe that's the wrong way to think about it, but I'm also in that mode where I'm like, well, we have to program Christmas movies every year across an entire month, right? And I've been doing this for 19 years. So at a certain point, you get a little desperate and you become kind of like a scavenger, and you're like, all right, what is one movie that has just a Christmas tree or a Christmas hat or even if somebody is dinging a bell in a background with a Christmas hat, we're like, that's a Christmas movie.
Like count it. That's good.
Yeah. So, it's kind of funny to me that now people are kind of in that mode too, where they're like, Die Hard's a Christmas movie and 3 Days of the Condor is a Christmas movie. That's very amusing to me. But for me, I kind of have that in mind a little bit when I'm thinking about some of these titles. So for me, one of my favorite Christmas-ish films is this movie called The Silent Partner. And it's basically a Canadian sort of cat and mouse crime film with Elliot Gould and Christopher Plummer. And in that movie, it's basically like a film where Elliot Gould works in a bank and is somehow gets involved into this bank robbery or bank heist that goes wrong. And then he sort of like settles into this idea that maybe he's intercepted this bank robbery, and then becomes sort of like, it becomes that cat and mouse game between him and the person who was trying to rob the bank, which is Christopher Plummer. And there's a certain point where Christopher Plummer is wearing a Santa outfit. So that's what makes their Christmas movie, is that it's just essentially like taking place during the holidays in a mall. So I really, really like that one. But then I also love this movie, and I don't know if you've seen this one, but it's called The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane with Jodie Foster. That movie too is sort of like barely a Christmas movie. I think it sort of takes place during Christmas, but if there isn't an actual Christmas tree in the film, it's definitely like a winter wonderland type of film. Because it takes place in the kind of in the woods or in a rural environment, in the like it's snowing or it's cold outside. So I kind of love that one as an alternative Christmas movie. And then I don't know. I mean, there's Christmas Evil, which I think I really like a lot too. That's essentially a full-on Christmas movie. But then, yeah, I mean, I could really, to me, I feel like if it takes place in a, like, there are movies that I watch during Christmas that may not be Christmas movies per se, but they kind of carry a Christmas vibe because it's like in the snow. Like I count like Misery as part of that, where it's like, oh, people are wearing turtlenecks and sweaters and it's snowy and it's taking place in like, you know, the mountains or something like that. So
there's I'm sure you've heard of this. It has Peter Cushing. It's called Cash on Demand. I remember that being kind of seasonal, which I think is a really cool movie that I think Mill Creek just put out on Blu-ray not too long ago. And so it's really interesting. You were talking about like programming for TCM. So Holiday Affair is one that I had only heard of because of TCM, and now it's kind of my favorite. Like
your favorite Christmas movie? Yeah,
it's so like, how do I put this? Like, I weirdly love it, but I don't know why. Like, I think it's kind of miscast, but
yeah,
there's something so endearing about it that I keep going back to it, even though it's not really the greatest movie.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, you're talking about the one with Robert Mitchum and Janet Leigh, right? Yeah, that, you know, that movie. And there's another movie too that's like kind of like it's the Bing, is it called White Christmas with Bing Crosby? And you know, it's just like that.
Yeah,
it's such a huge Christmas movie that like I know how everybody loves it, and I want to not love it in a weird way because I'm like, oh, I'm cooler than White Christmas. You know what I mean? Like I'm like better than that, and I'm more intellectual and thoughtful than that or whatever. But I like it, and I can't help liking it. I'm just like, okay, I just like it. So let's give it up. You know, I have to tell myself those things. So
yeah, it's so funny because I love like schmaltzy Christmas movies, and then I love just weird stuff. I don't like to put myself in a box necessarily. Like, oh gosh, like I can go from like something really trashy like Silent Night, Deadly Night to A Christmas Story or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, it's totally true. And like you know, as much as like I challenge myself to be thoughtful and to try to be like a little bit more on the edge, I mean, sometimes it when it hits, and you can't help it, and you shouldn't put yourself in a box, right? Like every time A Christmas Story comes on TV, and it comes on TV how many times? Like probably like hundreds, if not thousands of times. Then I just sit and watch it because I can't help it. And I actually think A Christmas Story, to be honest, has the bones of a cult movie in a weird way, because there's so many cool actors. Like, you know, there's like a lot of like, I mean, Bob Clark, for crying out loud. I mean, it's like, you know what I mean? You're like, oh, I love that in a weird way. Bob Clark, who was responsible for Black Christmas, is now like this, has this movie that has is literally like infiltrated every segment of our population. It's like on TV all the time. It's become like a new Christmas standard, and everybody has watched it and heard of it. I kind of love that.
Yeah, that is fascinating how like TBS has manufactured this tradition of rerunning it for 24 hours.
Yeah.
Speaking of Black Christmas, I'm very curious to get your thoughts on the like the two remakes. The one in, I believe it was '06, and then the one in 2018.
Yeah, you know what? I have to be honest with you. I have not seen the 2018 or 2019 one, the most recent one. So I want to. It's been on my list for a really long time. But the original Black Christmas is one of my absolute favorites. Like, it's just really like, and it's really freaky. Like, as much as it's like talked about a lot, and you know, a lot of people have seen it at this point. I mean, it really is like kind of messed up, you know, like especially like the scene where the woman who's in the attic gets the plastic bag over her face. I'm like, holy crap, that's like genuinely terrifying. And there's just so many like good, there's so many good, like great women in that movie. Like, oh my gosh, I just love Olivia Hussey, and I love oh my gosh, Margot Kidder, and like, you know, so those actresses are like amazing to me. So
yeah, I really love the story. There's a story that Steve Martin tells, or no, I'm sorry, Olivia Hussey tells about Steve Martin when they were acting in the movie together, and I don't know the title, but the first day that they were acting together, Steve Martin was like, "You're in a movie I love. It's like one of my favorite movies." And she's thinking, "Oh, it's Romeo and Juliet. Like everybody loves me in that movie." He's like, "No," he's like, "My favorite movie is like Black Christmas. And you're amazing in it." And I love that story.
Yeah, and this is also this other story that I love too, where I had read something about how Olivia Hussey like went to a psychic at one point, and the psychic told her to be in Black Christmas. So wow. I'm like, that's good advice, right? Because it became like this, you know, kind of beloved Christmas horror movie. But I just love that bit of how if a psychic hadn't told her to do the movie, we might not have had her in the film. So
yeah, and you're right. It has, I think one of the most enduring things about the movie is, yeah, it's creepy. There's a lot of very unsettling things, from like the killer POV, which was like pretty I mean, I don't know if it was done before, but it certainly was one of the forerunners for like the killer POV things. But like the score is just unsettling. But yeah, it has a lot of great, strong female protagonists in it. Like Olivia Hussey's character. Like I'm like yelling at all the bonehead guys in that movie to just leave her alone and let her do her thing, you know?
Oh, I know. It's like Keir Dullea that's like her boyfriend, right, in the film.
Yeah.
And he's just such an asshole. Like, I'm just like, God, and he's like so full of himself, and he like wants her to have a baby, and I'm just like, get away from this guy. He's just such a cornball. So yeah, you're totally right. And I forgot that Andrea Martin's in this movie too. She's so cute. I love her.
I'm hoping that Lynn, who is the first victim in there, like she's a great Facebook account. I'm an old fogey. I still like Facebook, but she's adorable. She has like the coolest feed. She like still acts and does like stage work. And I'm hoping to interview her, so I'm just putting that out there in the universe.
Lynn Griffin, is that her name?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, she was in Curtains too. Did you ever see Curtains?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. I didn't know that. I have to go look that up.
Yeah, she is great. She's really sweet. I know she was like I'm filming a movie right now, which booked and blessed, but like she was like such a sport, and hopefully we can schedule that. But Yeah, I love that movie. And I have to say that even the remake, which Bob Clark was involved with before he passed away, is really good. And I like how it's kind of finding its own sort of cult following, divorced from the 74 film, because that one's a classic. But I think Black Christmas is like the remake is kind of a classic in its own right. It's funny because I have a friend who he is like a diehard film fan, writer, like critic, and he actually prefers the remake to the original. I don't agree with that, but
The 2006 one or
the 2006 one, yeah.
Yeah, that I see. I feel like I did see that when it came out, because that's the one that has like Lacey Chabert and like that. It's like early 2000s, right?
Yeah, it's kind of, I think it kind of came in the wave of like the remake wave where it was like Texas Chainsaw kind of was a huge hit, and everything got remade. But
no, this cast looks amazing. Like Michelle Trachtenberg and Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and like this is like such a, I haven't seen it, or I don't think I've seen it since it came out. I haven't seen it, definitely not recently, so I need to go back and watch it.
It's one of those movies. I will say it's funny because you were talking about like movies that like, so this definitely is a Christmas movie, but like when you were talking about like movies that like just have that vibe, and I get what you're saying, like it's cozy, it's like wintertime. I feel like winter is inherently kind of creepy when you photograph it.
Definitely.
But just to say that this movie is stunning looking. It like uses its colors and its like mood to like the nth degree. It's really like fantastic.
Yes. Okay. It's going on the list right now.
But so I'm trying to think like to wrap up. So you have the podcast. Actually, you just posted a new episode. Hopefully this will go up today, but you actually posted a new episode yesterday. I'm kind of curious, like, so I just started a podcast, and for anybody listening, what would you say is like some really good advice about like wanting to maybe get into podcasting?
Wow. I would say, I think Danielle and we come from the school of like of being of coming across as genuine, as coming across as like actual people, because I've definitely been on podcasts before where a lot of the podcasts are about like facts and sort of talking more sort of academically about film, which is totally fine. Like I can definitely do podcasts like that, but I feel like Danielle and I's like relationship, our friendship on, we wanted that to be like a part of the podcast. And I think that makes people, want to listen, and they come for our friendship. And the friendship is a lot about watching film and talking to each other about movies, and talking to each other about our perspectives on things and how we watch movies. And I would just say, if you're starting a podcast, like lean into yourself. And I think that as much as it seems kind of weird to like, do a film podcast and talk about yourself personally and talk about your experiences, I say do it if you're comfortable with doing it. And because I think as a listener, people want that from people. They want to know you, and they want to know like how you've come to film and what your experiences are with film, and like where were you when you saw 2006 remake of Black Christmas for the first time. And like that to me is really interesting. And so, that's what I would say, is to bring some warmth and some, genuine vibes. And I think you'll be really successful. So
yeah, no, like that, I resonate with that really hard, because I think that like it's like, okay, I think a lot of times people come for our personalities and our own unique takes on things. It's not necessarily that we're providing anything groundbreaking. Like, I mean, good insights, yes, but nothing that's like we didn't discover a new planet or something. It's like
Right.
you're not coming for groundbreaking news. You're coming for like the personalities, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And I lean towards those types of podcasts, I think, more than podcasts that are sort of a little bit more formal and structured to be more informational than personality driven. So I mean, there's a way to do both, obviously, but I personally say that, like, we want to know a little bit of who the person is, I think, and if you're comfortable with doing that, then I say do it.
Yeah, because you don't want to like listen to a textbook. You want to hear some fun people talk about these great movies that we're all passionate about. And I love it. I love the podcast. I love the book. The passion really comes through. Like I was thinking like, oh my gosh, you have my dream job. Like TCM programmer, podcaster. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is like literally the coolest thing.
Oh, I appreciate that. I mean, it is. I will tell you right now, you're there. You're
Oh, thank you.
Doing podcasting, and you're writing. You wrote a book. I mean, that's amazing. So,
yeah, no, I no complaints. I love what I do. I really like GVN's great because I get to talk about weird movies. I get to talk to awesome people like you. But yeah, oh my gosh. This was so fun talking to you. I will link the where you can buy the book in the description, as well as the podcast. I recommend both. Like really awesome. Like I had spent like 2 weeks straight getting caught up on the podcast. So it was a lot of fun.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you supporting the podcast and the book. And yeah, it's nice to meet a like-minded person. I mean, I'm like looking at you right now. I wish I had my camera on, but I'm like, oh my gosh, you've got all your Blu-rays behind you. It's amazing.
And I was gonna say I wore my Serial Mom.
I was gonna say that's your Kathleen Turner shirt.
Oh, I got to meet her. She was so nice.
Oh, I can't imagine meeting her. She's one of my absolute faves. So that's so awesome.
I was trying to play it cool. I think I had zero chill, but like I don't know.
I would have been a mess. Absolute mess.
It was a little bit of like a we're not worthy.
Oh, I don't blame you at all. I would have done the same thing.
But yeah, she was one of the nicest people I met, and like doing these conventions and stuff. Just if you ever get a chance to meet or talk to her, it's great.
Awesome.
But thank you so much again. Before we wrap, if Jesse, if you can send me like any like pictures that I can use for the thumbnail, like
absolutely.
Just like any that like is like fine to do that with. Thank you so much again. I really hope that we can chat again sometime. I hope you like the new there's so many Black Christmases now. The 2006 Black Christmas. I didn't hate the newer Black Christmas. I will say that it takes a lot of big swings, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Did it really work? Not really, but it was.
Yeah, listen. There's so many remakes now to things that they can't all be incredible, and so I definitely have been wanting to watch it. In fact, maybe I'll do a double feature of the 2006 and the 2019 one. That would be amazing.
Interesting.
It's like if you're gonna, you're right. If you're gonna remake something, just be weird as fuck.
I know, like you can go the Suspiria route and just do something completely off the wall, right?
But yeah, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I think I went over a little bit over my time, but like again, I had a great chat, and I super appreciate you taking the time to reschedule and talk to me.
Oh, of course. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again, and thank you, Jesse. I really
Thanks,
appreciate
Jesse.
Thanks, Millie. Thanks, Mike. I actually I wrote down a ton of stuff that you guys were talking about.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
I love all of these movies that you mentioned. So some of these I have to check out. So
That's awesome.
All right. Great.
All right.
All right. Thanks.
Have a good one. Bye,
All right,
guys.
you too. Bye.